Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Aurora and this is Ramblings with Ro because I want to ramble about things. So today the topic I want to ramble about is the series that lives in everyone's heads, or at least in a generation's heads, rent-free all the time, and it's Avatar. And no, I'm not talking about blue people, and no, I'm not talking about the Netflix live action. I'm talking about the original one. So for this video, I'm going to be talking about the Southern Raiders episode, which is episode 16 of book 3. And I'm going to be referencing the character Yonra, who is the Fire Nation soldier who killed Katara and Sokka's mom. The thing that I wanted to talk about this particular episode is this character and basically the banality of evil. So in the beginning of the episode, it's very clear that Katara wants to seek revenge, have a form of justice for her mom's death. So she wants to go after this guy, and the way she talks about him is that he's a monster because he basically came to their tribe and wanted to eliminate the last waterbender, right? I know the key thing about this episode is Katara's journey and her sort of closure on that part of her life. I've been thinking about this episode a lot, I suppose because of all the things that's happening in the world right now in the last 6 months. And basically, this monstrous guy, he is a soldier or commander of a genocidal regime. And kind of like the twist of the episode is when Katara actually finds him, and he's not this monstrous evil guy, but he's actually this pathetic, quite meek guy living in a peaceful village with his mom, and she orders him around, berates him and insults him, and he just goes along with it, and he's just resigned to his life, and he's living a quiet life, and quite unlike like a strong, intimidating authority figure and a military figure. In the flashbacks of it happening, of Katara's mom trying to save her, he's first of all, he's standing, and Katara is obviously smaller than him, and Katara's mom is also on the ground, so he is physically and visually more powerful than them, and he has his uniform helmet on, and when Katara finds him, he doesn't have his uniform, he doesn't have his helmet, and sort of he doesn't have his mask, so his mask is off, and instead of behind this monstrous figure that Katara has built in her head, and what she sees is this pathetic man and this meek man who is immediately very intimidated by Katara and who immediately surrenders. He doesn't fight, unlike someone who's actually ready for combat. He's not that. He almost immediately surrenders to Katara. So what you see is just a normal dude. I think the important thing to note, him being pathetic, him being meek, and him surrendering doesn't negate the evilness of what he's done, right? Because he was a willing participant. He obviously didn't see anything wrong with what he was doing, because when we see him, the reason he's pathetic is because he's being insulted by his mom, like he's dominated by his mom, not because he is tortured, not because he's disturbed by the events that he's taken part in. It's not that. It's just that he retires into a village and kind of resume a normal life. And I feel in that normality and in that quietness and again, the banality of his life, which makes it so evil, I feel. Even when Katara reveals herself and reveals who she was, and he is, asking for forgiveness. And in this moment where he's like, I'll make it up to you, you can have my mother.
And you deserve revenge. So why don't you take my mother? That would be fair.
I feel like that is such an important part of the scene. There's a lot of levity in Avatar, and I think they do it very well. They mix humor and dramatic moments and serious moments really well. This is one of them. Like, I think it doesn't take away from the scene. But what I will say is that it's the fact that he offers his mom, right? It is so unserious. It is so, because you already know what the mom's value in his life is. It's not the way Katara talks about her mother. He is being emasculated by his own mother. He is being dominated by his own mother. So his gesture of asking for forgiveness, it's even insulting because you know that the mother doesn't mean anything to him. Like, it's remorse, but it's a half-ass remorse. And I feel like it is very realistic. You know, in Hollywood, we have all the movies about soldiers that go to war and then coming back and being traumatized, even though they were bad guys. You know, like... To put it plainly, they were the bad guys. You're expected to feel sorry for them when they were part of the machine of destroying another nation, and this is what he is. He was part of the machine, and he was a very much willing participant. I think it's something that Avatar really did well. They did a lot of things well. The show is nearly perfect, right? I think this episode is so important, mainly because of how they showed just how normal he is and how a normal guy can just take part in something really atrocious. And the fact that his power was the reason why he had power, the reason why he was so intimidating was because he had his uniform. It was funded by his regime, right? Like, he was funded by the Fire Nation. It was a governed mission, you know, and being given these resources, the uniform, instilled a lot of power in him. Because up to this point, we've seen a lot of really competent antagonists or villains in the series, and they're all very otherworldly. Or if you're just looking at like Ozai and Azula, it's really obvious how maniacal they are, just living in a different plane of existence, right? Because they're not like normal evil, they're genocidal evil. And the fact that these people wouldn't be able to carry out whatever they want to be doing, right? Destroying other nations without these very normal people who are emboldened by them through their uniform, through their through their service, not acts of service, through their service, and them believing in that regime and carrying it out. They wouldn't be successful without these normal people falling in line. I guess the thing that I've been wanting to articulate is the fact that I think a lot of the times and when I say we, I mean history or the general consciousness, we tend to put the blame of a societal tragedy on an evil figure. And in this case, we blame it on Ozai, right? Because even with Azula, with how evil she is, people still point it to Ozai, right? Ozai equally abuses her and Zuko, right? Essentially. I think we cut other people too much slack because it doesn't make it any less evil if you are following orders. Free will exists, and there is always a choice whether or not to partake in what is socially all right for you in that given circumstance, or are you going to push back against it? In history, there are people who push against things, push against the normality of things, and you have movements and you have activism, right? I think the thing that I was thinking about when I was watching this episode again is the fact that I think we too easily dismiss normal people and their contribution to evil. And the reason why I choose to use the word evil is I don't know how else to describe a nation that is genocidal, that dehumanizes people that are different from them. I just don't know how else to describe that because I think it's very apt to call it evil. And I think in itself, like calling something evil it's like a big, almost fairy tale like thing, because we hardly ever describe normal people as evil, right? We usually choose otherworldly figures, like, which is why in fairy tales, like the villains in fairy tales are particularly monstrous and we call them evil, or like historical figures of, you know, people leading war, you will call that guy really evil, right? And you won't call your neighbor who is racist evil, because we see evil as something that is a step too far. Not even a step too far. There's an extreme. And I don't think I don't think evil is extreme all the time. It can be people just following orders. It can just be people not thinking about other people. For someone like him to be able to do what he does is because he doesn't care. He doesn't see the humanity of the Southern Water Tribe people. He's able to look past that because he just doesn't care. A lot of people are able to look past things because they don't care, because of apathy. I know I'm rambling a lot, and this is the name of the channel. I am rambling, and I just wanted to make a video maybe because maybe I could possibly share my thoughts with you guys. I don't know, trying to make sense of the world and trying to make sense of what is happening right now. I think that is a big thing that I've been reflecting on the past 6 months is evil. It doesn't take a lot to be evil. Ultimately, it's not this big bad wolf that you see. It's normal people living normal lives, being put in situations, and they don't fight against those situations, and this is an example of that, and how just utterly boring it is. So boring. It's to the point where I don't even want to see the complexity of him as a character, because there really isn't any complexity there. Like, I mean, you can argue that maybe there is, but like, there's not a lot of complications there. It's just like, he is a military guy who's sent on this mission, and then he retires, he goes to the village, and you see him that he is living with his mother. It's something that we all have to contend with, that evil can be very boring and is banal. And I think a lot of the times we give evil far too much credit. Like, we think that people have to go through extremes of trauma or extremes of psychological anomalies for them to do evil things. And I think ultimately the most tragic thing about humanity is how easy it is and how unoriginal it is to fall into evil and commit atrocities. I think because it is so boring, it's just mere whim, it makes it even more evil. It makes it even more atrocious. I think it's also very human of us to believe that something is an extreme to be evil, because I think it's been said before that in order for you to commit such atrocities, you have to dehumanize yourself first, because you're losing touch with your own humanity. So the tendency to actually write off despicable things as, like, I think we have our fascination with like true crime and people being very invested in trying to learn the mechanics of a sociopath or a serial killer or a psychopath, right? Because I think in the end, we all want to cling to our own humanity. So the only way to do that is to see how inhumane another person is to do those things. And I think it doesn't take a lot. You can still be humane to a lot of things and still be able to do evil things, because that is the nature of doing something evil, is that you're able to justify to yourself that this is okay. I'm going to treat this person this way, but I'm not going to treat this person this way, because that is fine in my head. Because this human is deserving of my respect, and this human is not. This human is deserving of me doing horrible things. I think it's just a stream of consciousness of me thinking through this. I think I've made my point, really. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think about the banality of evil? This is a bit of a different video because I think my video essays are usually a lot more concise and thought out because I script them and things like that. But then this one, I think, is just something that's been on my mind, and I suppose I want to ramble about it, and I want to hear what your thoughts are. Hopefully we'll ramble together. If you stayed this long, I hope you think about some of the things that I thought about, and let me know if you have been thinking about this as well, or trying to grapple with the concept of how normal it is for us to do horrible things. Hopefully, we see that amongst ourselves, and people are very much capable of horrible things, just as much as people are capable of doing wonderful things and great things and compassionate things. And I hope that the people who are watching would be in the latter group. Yeah. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.